I think the first thing that really hit me over the head about the book was your observation that in the US, anyway, we've had this interesting combination of democracy and capitalism. And if the mass of people do not feel that capitalism is working for them, that if we actually do have a democracy, they'll vote for something else.
Yeah.
And I think the core theme of the book is that things that should be treated as systems and where we need to really see the whole system in balance have been distorted by the need to optimize parts of these systems. And I think the pandemic, your timing could not be better. I mean, the pandemic has made this obvious to the ordinary person, right? So maybe just tell us the story of the book and what are some of the things you hope people will take away from it.
Sure. Well, that is, I mean, that's a good summary and an unsurprising one from a Russell Acuff, a student. In that is a core finding of the book, really, that without necessarily saying so, we've treated the economy and even the political economy as a big, complicated machine. Like an automobile, right? And so an automobile is a big complicated machine. There's the powertrain, there's the braking system, there's a heating, ventilating, air conditioning, there's a safety system, all of these systems. And to deal with the complexity or the complicatedness of that, we break it into those disciplines and have somebody say, well, do a powertrain and it should have these attributes, do braking system, it should have these attributes. And we add it up. And if it's a complicated system, you can kind of figure it out well enough to add it up, and it's a car. The economy is a complex system where cause and effect aren't so clear. It's not like if you press on that pedal called the gas pedal, it'll go faster. If you press on that pedal, it might careen out of control. It might go sideways. It's a system where you just can't tease those things apart for a while and then put them together. You are operating on the whole, but maybe even most importantly, it's adaptive, right? A car is not adaptive. A machine is not adaptive. It doesn't say, "Wow, Rita kind of jams on the gas kind of really quickly when she starts going. I should adapt to that, and when she pushes hard, I'll just open the carburetor a little bit." They don't adapt in that way.
And Roger doesn't, and so I'll just my carburetor will behave differently when Roger's driving.
Exactly. So, but in an adaptive system, whatever rules are in place, the creatures in it adapt to it. It's just like a tree, right? If you're growing behind a big tree, you're going to kind of grow sideways to adapt to the fact that you still need light. Or if the Clinton administration says we're going to stop CEO compensation from rising by making only the first $1 million of compensation deductible for corporate income tax purposes, they don't just say, "Oh, okay, well, we will put the brakes on CEO compensation." They say, "Hey, now here's an idea. Why don't we give them stock options instead?" And they are not taxable in kind of any way to them or anybody else. And sure enough, your clever methodology for reducing CEO compensation, or at least flattening it, ends up with CEO compensation being 10 times its high 10 years later. That's adaptation. So what we have is a system that we're treating like a machine. It's more like a natural system. And by treating it like a machine, we have taken sort of the rules of machines, which is keep pushing and pushing for ultimate efficiency. Let's make that car run as efficiently as possible. More efficiency is always better. And we've put pressure on. So in our system, we say, well, let's put more pressure on it. Let's open up markets to international trade. Let's deregulate. Let's encourage kind of mergers to get kind of big and supposedly more efficient in the capital markets. And all of that stuff has inadvertently taken that natural system and caused it to produce a set of outcomes that we never expected. Right. The general conception of the economy really is that the outcomes are going to be largely normally distributed, bell-shaped a big middle class. We all know with a big middle class, some rich people, fewer rich people, fewer poor people. And if we keep pursuing efficiency, productivity will rise, and that distribution will march to the right to higher and higher incomes. What we didn't realize that in complex adaptive systems, especially if you start pushing harder and harder, putting more and more pressure on them, and if the connection between things in that there's a ease of connection, it turns into a Pareto distribution, the 80-20 distribution that Wilfredo Pareto first observed, where he noted that 20% of Italian families owned 80% of the land at the end of the 19th century. That's what we're getting, Rita. We are getting something that is looking more Pareto every day, which means that most observations, and let's use family income as the option, are being pushed to the left, to the low end, and then a very few observations, the 1%, are getting more and more, so that when we have $1 of economic growth in the American economy, now that $1 of growth is most likely to head into the pockets of somebody in the 99.999th percentile. 40 years ago, it was actually most likely to end up in the pockets of somebody at the 5th percentile, which I think probably you and I could agree, you kind of want that, right? You know, that's just a pretty much inherently good thing. The people who need an incremental dollar most are most likely to get it. The people who need it least are least likely to get it. Now we've switched. The people who need it most are least likely to get it. The people who need it least are most likely to get it. And that's in a nutshell, my worry stated in the book, that because this isn't totalitarian capitalism of the sort we now are getting increasingly in China, right? That's an increasingly capitalist country, and it's totalitarian. If we want democratic capitalism, 51% of people have to say, this is working for me. Mm-hmm. And it's just not right now. In fact, ever since 1976, the median family income can be expected to grow to double every 100 years. Prior to that, it was doubling every 30 years. So you could actually sit at the kitchen table as a median family and be able to look at your kids and say, you know, when they're my age, they'll have double the real income I'll have. And I think any reasonable family at the median could say, that's pretty good. That works. That works. Right. But if they were saying, you know, my children's children's children will be have twice the income we have, it's sort of like, you know, kind of blah, right? That sounds like a century from now. Well, that's because it is, right? And that's just a long time. So that's the concern in the book, that we inadvertently, I'm not blaming this on anybody. Nobody, I don't think, in America had the plan that said, we are going to accidentally do a bunch of things that is going to create a situation in which very, very, very few people are benefiting from economic growth. We need everybody to work on economic growth for the benefit of few. Nobody. I don't know if you've met anybody like that. I don't know anybody that's done that. I think it's inadvertently happened.